History of slavery. Slaves first arrived in Virginia in the year of 1619. They were forced to come here from Africa. In 1793, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. This was a simple machine that used rotating combs to separate cotton fiber from its seeds. Eli invented this machine to ease the labor of slaves, but it did just the opposite. This invention actually increased the want of slaves in the South. Between 1790 and 1850, the number of slaves in the South rose from 500,000 to 3 million. Conditions on slave ships were terrible. They were packed in, and there was often not enough to eat or to drink. To make slavery work, slaveholders used very harsh punishments. The most common punishments were whipping, beating, and branding. Slaveholders also made their slaves feel totally dependent on them, although these sometimes backfired because slaves need time to heal, so they couldn't work. Slaves' rebellions existed in cities, on plantations, and even on ships. Nat Turner, a slave in Virginia, led a violent rebellion, killing 57 white people in 2 days. They used guns and axes to do it. Compared to the South, the North had very few slaves. There was a more significant amount in the South, and the North never even came close to reaching their slave population. The difference is that the South depended on cotton to increase their economy. They needed slaves to do that, while the North was independent and didn't depend on slaves to help them. The Underground Railroad was a secret network of safe houses run by free blacks and whites who wanted to help slaves escape. These people risked their lives to help bring slaves from house to house until they eventually reached the North and could live better in freedom. Harriet Tubman is a famous icon in black history. Through the Underground Railroad, she helped 200 men, women, and children who were slaves to freedom. She even escaped slavery herself. Her courageous act will always be remembered. She was such a brave woman that she returned to the South over 12 times to help lead slaves as a conductor to freedom. The daily life of a slave was filled with endless work. Slaves had very little breaks and eating periods. They started working at dawn out in the fields and continued to work until dusk. However, their work didn't stop there. There was always work to do even after dark, such as wood to chop and cotton to clean. Although most of the slaves' lives were spent working, they did have some leisure time on Saturday night and Sunday. On the day off, slaves spent time dancing, doing quilty bees, fishing, and other activities. Many slaveholders encouraged slaves to go to church, but they wanted them to go to white churches. Slaves did not like this idea, so they started an invisible church. To get the message out that a meeting was going to happen, slaves would sing, "Steal Away to Jesus." Although slaves adopted a new way of life in America, they never forgot their African roots. The songs of slaves had the rhymes and harmonies of Africa, but spoke about the reality of slavery. There was also African legends and folk tales that survived, like Bear, Rabbit. Frederick Douglass was a famous abolitionist who spoke up about the wrongs of slavery at abolitionist meetings. He was a very well-respected man once he escaped the hands of slavery. People claim that Douglass had a voice like thunder, and when he spoke, people cried. He wrote an autobiography and started a newspaper called the North Star. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president. He was against slavery and issued the Emancipation Proclamation to end it. This proclamation affects the way we live today. When the Civil War ended, slavery ended with it. The South surrendered to the North, but not all the South agreed to it. The 13th Amendment was created to ensure the end of slavery on December 6, 1865. Slavery was the most terrible part of American history. The cotton gin was what brought back slavery to the South. Slavery finally ended in 1865 when the Civil War was over. Thanks to all the hard work of people against slavery, slavery was never again seen in the United States of America.
Kyle, sit down! Oh, you think you're Dr. Evil over there? Ha ha ha! No, your coughing isn't funny.
Clear your desk off.
Clear your desk off. Put everything on the floor. Get out a lime green purpley pencil to check the test, please.
Hello, Harriet.
Hello, Abe.
Why? No, you're not. Hi,
Harriet,
Abe.
you have a very large nose.
You have a very large hat.
Nice face.
Nice beard.
Thank you. I've worked hard to grow it.
To grow it?
It takes skill.
That was so not funny.
Goodbye, Harriet.
That she returned to the South over 12 times to help lead slaves as a conductor to freedom. Although slaves adopted a new way of life in America, they never forget their American roots. The songs of slaves had the rhymes. Stop! No! Her courageous acts will always be remembered. She was such a brave woman that she returned to the South over 12 times to help lead slaves as a conductor to freedom. Pause it!
Don't call me fat.
Maybe.
You're saying I'm fat because I ate my own bagel? Hey, stupid.
Stop!